Good evening, I am Cynthia Nyamai and welcome to Prime Edition tonight. Now, some good news. Economists say that we are likely to see a more than 5% growth in Kenya's economy. I will be telling you some of the sectors that are likely to drive our economy to see that kind of growth. And also, President William Ruto says that his government will be taking drastic measures to ensure that the nation does not over-rely on public debt. And we will definitely have some sports action for you. But first, let's have the highlights.
We cannot be a country that is borrowing left, right, center, up, down, front, back. No.
Reducing public debt, President William Ruto says radical but gradual measures to be taken.
I direct you to bring the two ministers to the House on Wednesday at 3 o'clock.
Worldcoin controversy. The National Assembly now summons Cabinet Secretaries Kithure Kindiki and Eliud Owalo to shed light. Taming cholera outbreak. Campaign to vaccinate 1.5 million people in 8 counties kick off. Byron Abuli is our sign language interpreter. And remember, we would like to hear from you. You can send us your comments on KBC Channel 1 on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram page. I will be reading some of your comments. Now, President William Ruto says the government will take drastic measures that will help to gradually reduce the country's over-reliance on public debt that has now soared to 9.6 trillion shillings. The president, who spoke in Machakos County while awarding a charter to the county's first virtual university, added that the violence will not be tolerated. The president's remarks were backed by Makueni Governor Mutula Kilonzo Jr., among other Ukambani leaders in attendance, who called for dialogue to resolve the political differences between the Kenya Kwanza administration and the opposition. Give us on minor reports.
Speaking at Konza City in Machakos County Thursday afternoon, President William Ruto said his administration is banking on raising revenue locally to reduce the country's over-dependence on public borrowing that now stands at 9.6 trillion shillings.
We cannot be a country that is borrowing left, right, center, up, down, front, back. No. Because we run the real risk of going downhill.
The Kenya Kwanza administration is, however, planning to change regulations on borrowing from the fixed debt ceiling of 10 trillion shillings and cap it at 55% of the country's GDP. The head of state, who promised to work with counties, also assured the national government would disburse the country's funds on time.
The last financial year, in 2022, the government then crossed over with about 30 billion shillings belonging to counties. This year, I made sure that we paid to the last cent before we crossed the year. I have also made sure that the money due to counties for July was paid in July for the first time in 10 years.
As the new bipartisan talks are set to begin, following the formation of the 10-member committee from both political divides, President Ruto spoke tough against political violence.
We will compete with our knowledge, we will compete with our positions, but we will never compete in violence.
We have to create stability and we have to give Kenyans an opportunity to grow.
Ukambani leaders, led by Makueni Governor Mutula Kilonzo Jr., urged the president to unite the country, saying the political differences were stagnating development in the country.
It's important, Your Excellency, that we have peace in this country, because it is that peace that will bring us the sort of investment I have seen from that. We trust you and Kenyans trust you. The sword we gave you is to rule the country. Do it without fear or favor.
After Ukambani, the head of state is expected to begin a week-long development tour in the Mount Kenya region starting this Saturday. Giverson Minor, Prime Edition.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, has summoned Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Kithure Kindiki, and his ICT and Digital Economy counterpart, Eliud Awalo, to appear before the Parliament to expound the situation surrounding the Worldcoin craze. Wetangula gave the directive after a statement by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah failed to address concerns raised by the members over the security of Kenyans' data gathered during the registration. In a statement, however, Ichung'wah noted that the matter is under active investigation with the data collected secured.
As Cabinet Secretaries Kithure Kindiki and Eliud Awalo await to appear before Parliament next Wednesday, a statement presented before the House by National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah indicated that Worldcoin, the entity that collected the iris data from Kenyans for a 7,000 shillings pay, is not registered in Kenya. It instead hired a local company called Sense Marketing.
One, Mr. Emmanuel Otieno, who is described to be in charge of operations, and two, Ms. Rael Mwende, who is described as a country manager. Both persons are being interrogated by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, since yesterday, Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023. Among the foreign nationals associated with Worldcoin are Mr. Poiter Piwowozik, who is on record to have entered Kenya on several occasions.
With the data collection exercise having been halted on Wednesday, the government says criminal investigation has been launched on the authenticity and legality of the activity, safety of data being harvested, and its use.
Since last year, the Office of Data Commissioner was on their track since last year. They indeed wanted to start collecting this data last year, but they were not registered and they were waiting for, I'm told, the launch of that, their Bitcoin, their cryptocurrency, and when it was launched late last month is when they start collecting this data, and the Office of the Data Commissioner has been in that case.
The Data Protection Commissioner's office said it did not clear the company due to non-compliance issues. Lawmakers termed the matter a breach to national security.
This operated with impunity and without a care in the world, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this data needs to actually be produced and made sure that it does not leave the country, so that we can not only protect our citizens, Mr. Speaker, but as a government ensure that their safety is guaranteed, and it is not for ministers to issue cautionary statements, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and gaps are there. Why were they queuing? Who allowed them to occupy KICC, which is a serious government institution? I think we are threatened as a country, and so I agree with the President's information yesterday.
I want to know from the two ministers, what remedial measures have they taken so far since this was discovered? Apart from stopping this from happening, have they confiscated their machines? Have they closed their offices? What have they done to ensure that, to assure members of this country that the game will not be used in a wrong manner? But Mr. Speaker, finally,
even as the government assured that the data collected has been secured, Speaker Moses Wetangula directed that the two CSs need to set the record straight.
Honorable Majority Leader, in view of what you are saying and what the members have expressed, I direct you to bring the two ministers to the House on Wednesday at 3 o'clock.
Kamche Menza for Prime Edition.
The Ministry of Health has launched an oral cholera vaccination campaign targeting 1.5 million people in 8 most affected counties. The 8 counties include Nairobi, Kajiado, Wajir, Mandera, Marsabit, Homa Bay, Machakos, and Garissa. The exercise follows an upsurge of cholera cases in the country. By July 25th, July this year, 11,872 cases of cholera and 194 deaths had been reported.
Nairobi County, which is one of the 8 most affected counties by cholera, has unveiled a campaign drive of oral cholera vaccination targeting Kamkunji and Embakasi constituencies. The Nairobi County Health CC, Susan Silantoi, noted that out of the 11,872 cases reported countrywide, 2,177 cases were from Nairobi, urging residents to take great precaution.
The causes of cholera is unsafe food. So we are taking responsibility for some of that, and we will be feeding your children in school as part of our school feeding program. So in September, beginning August 28th, we will start serving children in public primary and ECD schools. We've gotten into a partnership with the Ministry of Education. Na kila mtoto atalipa shilingi 5 peke yake. So the government will take care of the rest of the cost. The parent will only pay 5 bob.
The vaccine that is going to be given to Nairobi might be different from the brand that is given to other areas. So we have two types of brands. We have Uvicol and we have Shankol, and we are going to administer 1 dose. So ukipewa dosi moja, complain kwamba pengine hautapewa ya pili. Still, the single dose offers protection. The full dose will give you protection for 3 years, but the single dose gives you a window of protection for up to miezi 6.
The oral cholera vaccination will be done in 8 counties, which include Nairobi, Kiambu, Wajir, Mandera, Marsabit, Homa Bay, Machakos, and Garissa. The launch of the vaccination against cholera also happened in Mandera.
From January to date, a total number of 2,263 cases have been admitted to our cholera treatment center, resulting in 15 tragic deaths.
The campaign against cholera will continue for 10 days up to the 12th of August 2023. Well, as the oral cholera vaccination drive kicks off, health experts advise that the vaccination is but a complementary measure, advising everyone to consider proper sanitation and hygiene as well as clean water to be able to curb the spread of the disease. Serafina Nairobi for Prime Edition.
A Milimani court has jailed 3 of 4 accused persons after finding them guilty of involvement in a car theft syndicate. 2 of the accused, who are foreigners, were further found guilty of being in the country illegally. However, Senior Principal Magistrate Esther Kimilu has freed one of the accused after she was compelled by his pleas. Details in the Scales of Justice segment.
During the delivery of the judgment by Senior Principal Magistrate Esther Kimilu on the 4 accused persons found in possession of a stolen vehicle in a yard, the court jailed 3.
Kulikuwa na tracking printout ambayo inaonyeshana kwamba hilo gari lilitoka Embakasi kupitia Mombasa na basi ikaweza kuelezwa pale ilipopatikana.
The accused lawyer during litigation urged the court to suspend the judgment and deferred the sentence for one of the accused on medical grounds. However, the court questioned on the summary of the medical documents and ordered they be presented in court in 3 days. And a former member of Makueni County Assembly, Dennis Wambua Masavu, has been arraigned at Milimani law courts for threatening to kill the incumbent MCA Darius Kioko Mainga.
Counsel submission, he has no intention to utter any threats or even get in touch with the complainant and witnesses.
Elsewhere, the cross-examination of former Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich over the Aurora and Kimorer Dams project continued on Thursday.
Continuum of prosecution walikwambia lazima mkuje. And I was asked to be part of it. Please, you are avoiding my question. Yes. So the prosecution requires you to come.
I'm not in Malaysia. These are facts. If you look at all this, you can't see.
The witness told the court all the technical and financial requirements were met for the bidders in the project. And a middle-aged woman in Juja, Kiambu County is seeking justice after she was defrauded of 4.5 million shillings in a fake oil drilling tender. Rose Waithera Wanjiku was on August 27th, the year 2020, lured by 2 men who were known to her into the lucrative deal of supplying bearings for drilling oil in Turkana County, a deal she hastily took since she had been promised good returns.
Every time they give new results. Na wananiweka stress sana because hiyo pesa yenye walichukua nilikopa na huwa nadaiwa kila wakati.
Michael Mondiga for Prime Edition.
Apartment owners and developers in Nairobi County have a period of 6 months to complete the georeferencing process following a memorandum of understanding signed between the Ministry of Lands and other players in the land sector. The process will pave way for the issuance of long-term leases. Lands Cabinet Secretary Zachariah Njeru says the decision had been arrived to allow continuation of business. Long-term lease issuance was affected by the review period to conform to the Land Registration Act, which expired in December 2022.
Speaking during the signing of the memorandum between the Lands Ministry and the Law Society of Kenya, Kenya Bankers Association and the Institution of Surveyors of Kenya, Lands Cabinet Secretary Zachariah Njeru noted the transitional measures will see the issuance of long-term leases and allow the free flow of business.
We have developed an undertaking between the developer, survey and the Ministry of Lands, Public Works and Housing and Urban Development to give 6 months to the developer for geo-referencing. Because without geo-referencing, then there's no way we can be able to come up with the sectional titles.
The process to be undertaken in a period of 6 months will allow the ministry to comply with the new Sectional Properties Act.
We've agreed that the developer will give an undertaking that while we assist administratively at the registry, they give an undertaking that they will commit to appoint a surveyor, and an undertaking with a surveyor to do the georeferencing will be signed before clearance now to proceed. Therefore, and they will give an undertaking for 6 months that they will complete the georeferencing within 6 months.
The ministry, however, says it has resolved the challenges that led to the halting of the process, leading to pending transactions of about 104 billion Kenyan shillings.
After we are done with Nairobi, we are going to roll out to Murang'a County and Mombasa, and thereafter cut across the entire country to make sure that the digitization of land records is done across.
Going forward, the administration says it's working towards full digitalization of services to ensure efficiency and accountability.
12 counties are ready to embrace GMOs. That and more coming up shortly, but first, let's have our first break.
Cheza Loto Moto. Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial *570 hash. Wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial *570 hash. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stake zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara kadhaa na kumbuka, cheza responsibly. 18 years and above. Cheza Loto Moto.
Tulimwona vizuri na hata nilimwona nikahakikisha nimemwona kwa sababu akiongea kuna jino haikuwa ni yeye, ni huyo hapa. Alisema anaitwa Conductor Makoha.
What? Msichana sema ukweli ndio uachiliwe.
Hata hizi nywele ziko huku kando zimeng'oka, ndio hizo.
What you mean? Ushaikuwa nini kulipishana pesa hapo hivyo kwa kadi?
Aje sasa kwani ni makanga?
Na uwezi kuwa makanga, si ndio? Very good. So ni kielelekani umeleta hapa kwa hii kodi.
Ati kelele? Chunga maneno yako.
Sasa unajua hii mambo yote hawa watu wananiwekelea mheshimiwa. Manake sijawahi fanya kitu kama hii mheshimiwa. How shall you close me? How shall you?
Close, are you a door to be closed or a boot?
By the way. Lakini mheshimiwa ungeniangalia tu hapo.
Hebu toka tu.
Welcome back. The government is calling for continuous research and knowledge, seeking to understand how terrorism is mutating in the wake of technological advancements in order to effectively counter it. Speaking at the launch of the second Nairobi caucus on preventing the exploitation of technology and communication for terrorist use, National Security Advisor Ambassador Monica Juma called for a regional collaborative approach in dealing with terror.
The second Nairobi caucus on preventing the exploitation of technology and communication for terrorism seeks to create awareness on technological and communication risks being exploited by terrorists and violent extremists.
Sharing knowledge is, again, mission critical. Defining terrorists and terrorist activity requires a clear assessment of the rights and freedoms they will impact and whether actions are in fact legitimate and proportionate.
How we can better work together to thwart the operations of terrorist organizations using the internet and technology to nefarious purpose.
Also build partnerships among stakeholders to prevent the exploitation of technology and communication for terrorist use.
National Security Advisor Ambassador Monica Juma termed as a global vulnerability the inaction in evolving frameworks to regulate and plug gaps in technology communication that are being exploited by terrorist organizations.
Critical risks to the world, critical vulnerabilities are increasingly falling off the radar or assuming a lower priority, and particularly risks that are transnational because they do not compete well with domestic pressure.
The internet, including the dark web, social media platforms, the digital payment facilities, virtual assets, web hosting, cloud, archiving and file sharing services, as well as unmanned vehicles, are technologies exploited by terrorists in a wide range of activities. The addition of gaming and augmented reality to this list places the youth at a risk of radicalization on the web.
This population is a very vulnerable population because it's engaging with technology on a minute-by-minute basis. And so it is important to think, how is technology driving? How is technology exposing our young people to radicalization?
National Counter-Terrorism Center Director Dr. Rosalie Nyawira said the resurgence of terrorist-operated websites require more practical and innovative solutions to deal with terror.
What is emerging is really going to play a big role in security, but also to ensure that even while we enjoy technology, we do it within safety and that our populations are protected.
In the wake of artificial intelligence and new emerging trends in technology, everyday terror still remains a threat, but swift responses and collaborative approaches between regional countries remains a tangible solution to ending the menace. Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition in Nairobi.
Well, it is now time for business, where the government has committed to enhance access to affordable and quality education in the country. President William Ruto says his administration is keen on offering competitive and industry-driven education aligned with the government's economic transformation agenda. President Ruto says the objective is to deliver 100% transition to higher education.
Much.
President William Ruto was on Thursday in Konza during the awarding of charter to the Open University of Kenya, which is the first virtual public university in the country. While here, President Ruto said the launch of the institution will enhance public university capacity and offer a chance for ordinary Kenyans to pursue professional training of their choice wherever they are.
This is, in my very honest opinion, the university possibly of herdsmen, farmers. Mama Mboga in his place can also attend now university. Matatu drivers, border people, when you are waiting for your passengers, you can attend courses at the university. Watchmen, domestic employees, as well as trained professionals and graduates. Nothing says bottom up better than an open University of Kenya that gives everybody a chance.
The president said the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service will incorporate the Open University of Kenya into its portal in time to enroll students for the inaugural academic year that commences next month.
11,000 secondary schools in Kenya. 5,000 secondary schools do not send even one student to university. Most of them in rural Kenya. That is a cost for us.
The head of state said he had secured 100 billion shillings for the development of phase 2 of the Konza Technopolis project that will kick off immediately.
And among the things we want to develop here is the road. We want to expand the road from Machakos Turnoff that we dualed now all the way to Emali. I want to assure you that we now have a facility that will deliver water directly to this Konza from Kilimanjaro to this place, and also to mention that we are also going to rehabilitate the pipeline that already exists.
While reaffirming his commitment to transform Kenya as a technological hub, the president said he has negotiated for the construction of a national digital infrastructure at Konza. Wari Mujenga for Prime Edition.
Economists are projecting Kenya to record an economic growth rate of more than 5% this year, supported by tourism recovery, rebounding agriculture, and reduced inflationary pressures. National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndung'u is calling on the private sector to tap business opportunities in the agriculture value chain by creating solutions to address the challenges.
Kenya's economy grew by 4.8% in 2022, down from 7.6% a year earlier as a severe drought hurt agricultural output. This year, things are looking up, with the World Bank projecting that Kenya's economy will grow 5.5% this year. The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics projects the economy to expand 5.6% in 2023, supported by robust performance of the services sector and recovery of the agriculture sector. The National Treasury Cabinet Secretary agrees with this projection, adding that the government will channel investments into high productive sectors such as agriculture, affordable housing and MSMEs.
Better is an agenda, and everybody can have capability of fixing the problem. We then agree on hard rules to follow.
He encouraged investors to actively partner with the government through the use of private finance instruments such as green bonds and fiscal incentives to support sustainable development.
We should not see our coffee sector collapse, our sugar sector collapse. We have tried to revive the cotton industry, we haven't managed. Pyrethrum is struggling. All these are they are not low-hanging fruits, by the way. They are fruits on the ground, isn't it? It's for all of us to take up responsibility and fix the problem.
They spoke during the DTB Economic and Sustainability Forum, which projected the economy to grow between 5% and 5.5% this year.
Despite the challenges we face today, we are confident that public spending will remain healthy, even as the government continues to prioritize policies that promote fiscal discipline.
Today, we've been all the headlines, and everything has been about how our currency has had a slide and how we are now hitting 150. At 150, the ratio of Kenya to the Naira is 1:5.
Trevor Nginde for Prime Edition.
Private sector activity deteriorated for the 6th month in a row in July as political protests, a weak shilling and higher fuel prices affected business activity. The latest Stanbic Bank Kenya Purchasing Managers Index was a reading of 45.5, down from a reading of 47.8 in June, and output contraction the sharpest in almost a year.
July was characterized by political protests in parts of the country, which affected private sector activity as some businesses closed in fear. This hurt the overall business activity. If the latest Stanbic Bank Kenya Purchasing Managers Index is anything to go by, the data indicates that political protests accelerated the deterioration of business activity, highlighted by a sharp contraction in output that was the fastest since August last year. The survey says several firms noted that political demonstrations had adversely affected sales. In addition, a weak shilling coupled with higher fuel prices pushed up costs for businesses in July, with the rate of input prices increasing at the third quickest pace since the survey began in 2014. This, coupled with customers reining in spending amid steep inflation, saw business optimism wane slightly, while jobs growth eased. The Stanbic Bank Kenya Purchasing Managers Index for July shows a greater slump in operating conditions, with the pace of deterioration accelerating to the fastest in almost a year. At 45.5, the index was down from 47.8 in June, registering below the 50.0 neutral mark for the 6th month in a row. The Purchasing Managers Index readings above 50.0 signal an improvement in business conditions on the previous month, while readings below 50.0 show a deterioration. Nduta Mokami for Prime Edition.
Thank you, Mukami, for that story. Now, 12 counties are ready to embrace GMO crops as a way of securing harvest and overcoming adverse effects of climate change. County Executive Committee members in charge of agriculture in the 12 counties say erratic rains and invasion of pests and diseases can be mitigated by advanced seed technology to enhance food production.
With food production dwindling due to changing weather patterns that has seen Kenya spending more on food imports, 12 counties are ready to embrace GMO crops to overcome the effects of climate change. County Executive Committee members in charge of agriculture in the 12 devolved units want the Kenya University Biotechnology Consortium, a body bringing together 7 state universities, to enhance awareness campaigns targeting members of the public on biotech crops.
Lakini GMO hii wanasema ni haraka. Inaonekana hiyo ni mbegu ile ya kufanya haraka alafu tena wivu usiingie haraka.
And as a county, we will want to embrace it so that we get to understand what is it that involved in biotechnology.
It will give us superior varieties that will give us more yields, resistant to diseases, and insect attack.
Scientists believe adoption of GMO maize will reduce losses to the maize stock border by 60%.
We are losing 400,000 metric tons of maize each year, which is equivalent to what we are importing.
One of the solutions to this is if we applied the power of biotechnology to increase the productivity of our crops.
Scientists in Kenya have developed a GMO maize variety that are drought and pest resistant.
So it's about DNA. We are moving DNA from a bacterium that's harmless, that is actually in the soil and in your tummy, into maize directly, because they cannot naturally cross.
County Executive Committee members in charge of agriculture say that eliminating pest damage to maize and other crops using genetic engineering may enhance food security, enhance food safety, and reduce the use of pesticides that will protect the environment.
From the BT cotton, we've learned that you have less sprays in terms of managing the crop.
We need to try some maize and see if they will do better and resist pests like the Fola Miwa.
Benson Ruba reporting for Prime Edition.
Nanyuki town is not only a getaway to Africa's second highest mountain, but is also known for being the go-to place when it comes to work vacations. The scenery around Mount Kenya is undoubtedly breathtaking, as Irene Muchuma Odim highlights tonight on Magical Scenes.
Welcome to Nanyuki. The town derived its name from Nkare Nanyuki, a Maasai phrase for resemblance. Nanyuki is a cosmopolitan town with lots of heritage to show off. It could be a cold season in the country, but Nanyuki will always be warm, perhaps because it lies on the equator. The weather also is favorable, the reason why maybe we have greenery throughout the year in this part of the country. But then that is not the only attraction. There are the hills you would explore. You would visit the national parks and also have a look and maybe climb the highest mountain in Kenya, Mount Kenya. The town is a gateway to Mount Kenya and the wilderness of Mount Kenya National Park. Several trails, including the Cinnamon route, ascend to this second highest mountain in Africa through the Nanyuki route. The wildlife found in Mount Kenya National Park include antelopes, leopards, waterbucks, eland, and 100 species of birds. Climbing over 5,000 meters of the three peaks of Mount Kenya, namely Betian, Nelion, and Lenana, is the dream of many.
We are able to host a different variety of travelers. We have the business travelers and people who are coming in for leisure, especially people who are very keen on nature and on eco-friendly hotels. That is one of our selling points.
It's pristine wilderness with lakes, glaciers, dense forest, and mineral springs would attribute to interested visitors to engage in mountain climbing, camping, and caving alike.
Nobody who comes here should get a time of your own, exciting time, such that you go back saying that you always want to come back to peaks.
We have a garden here. This is natural grass.
A good number of visitors to this part of Kenya are interested in business meetings, which are complemented by outdoor activities. Irene Mchuma Odim, Multiple Sense, in Nanyuki.
Cheza Loto Moto. Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial star 570 hash. Wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial star 570 hash. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stakes zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara kadhaa na kumbuka, cheza responsibly. 18 years and above. Cheza Loto Moto.
What is endometriosis? What types are there? What are the causes of endometriosis? What treatment is there?
Basically, a condition where you have location of the cells of the lining of the womb, yes, where you get menstrual flow coming out, but these cells sit in places they shouldn't. Mm-hmm. When they are sitting in the wrong places, then we use the term endometriosis.
Mm-hmm. And for me, it was very painful, cramping, to the point I always used to be rushed to the ER.
It took about 14 years to get a diagnosis.
Wow. The only way the doctor could help me understand what I was suffering with, was he told me my uterus was growing inside out.
Welcome back. Women in the blue economy value chain in 10 counties are to benefit from a 1 billion shilling grant that targets to unlock barriers to capital access. Here is Regina Manyara with the details.
Women contribute up to 60% of the labor force in the fisheries sector alone. Despite this, they face systemic gender inequalities and barriers to their full economic participation.
Therefore, I wish to acknowledge the Global Affairs Canada and Africa Enterprise Challenge Fund for this great initiative in supporting women in blue economy.
The Investing in Women in the Blue Economy program will continuously level the playing ground and create an enabling environment where women can thrive and contribute to Kenya's economic growth.
A 5-year transformative initiative aims to correct this by promoting the economic empowerment of women-led enterprises, their suppliers and producers operating in different blue economy value chains.
By promoting the growth and sustainability of enterprises in the blue economy, Kenya can realize its potential for economic growth while preserving its marine resources for future generations.
The project targets 10 counties, namely Mombasa, Kwale, Kilifi, Tana River, Lamu, Taita Taveta, Busia, Siaya, Kisumu, Homa Bay and Migori, and will also benefit microfinance institutions that support small-scale fisherfolk. Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
The government is looking to install 250 megawatts worth of grid-tied battery storage power by 2024 in a bid to balance electricity frequency and voltage. This decentralized and decarbonized technology is also set to power more than 300,000 homes for about 2 hours daily if realized. Tonight on Tech One, we demystify grid-sized battery storage power and why it is important to the country.
With nearly 90% of electricity generated in the country coming from renewable sources by the end of 2022, the case for battery storage is strong.
Battery storage does two things. It acts like your power bank. All of us have a power bank where in case your battery is low on your phone, you just plug it in. It also acts as a balancer of frequency and voltage.
This even as most variable sources of solar and wind collectively made up just under 20% of Kenya's generation capacity in 2022, according to the Energy Petroleum Regulatory Authority, IPRA. This means that with more solar and wind capacity on the way, the country needs even more storage to manage that huge flow of energy.
Yes, especially now with the challenges we've had around the cost of power. Some of the sweetener that these generators are offering to KPLC and to EPRA is saying, listen, I'll put up this wind farm or I'll put up this solar plant, and on top of that then I can put battery generation or battery storage next to it.
That notwithstanding, the electricity storage technology is an exciting but unknown concept to many, begging the question of how it works. It starts with large physical battery packs. What do we do when the wind isn't blowing, or the sun isn't shining, or when there's a fault in the source of electric generation? That's where big energy storage systems like these ones make a difference and start to balance the grid and make it more resilient. They can automatically take excess geothermal, solar or wind energy, store it and give it back to the grid when the demand is high or when there is need to put in some more clean energy.
Because the benefits are there. If we are trying to move to a green grid, then you need storage.
However, with the government now targeting 250 megawatts by 2024 and nearly 500 megawatts by 2036, experts point to some teething issues that may need to be cleared before moving forward, even as demand for the technology by industry gathers pace.
We need clear tariff structures that incentivize people to invest in this technology. At the moment, if you look at, we got the Energy Act 2019, which requires a couple of regulations to make sure it comes into force. So there are a lot of regulations that are sitting at the regulator's desk. We understand they are ready, but I think their energies are focused elsewhere at the moment. We have the issue around fuel prices, the current PPA task force and the effect that has had on the market and the sector as a general.
Experts now say as Kenya moves to more renewable sources of energy, the need for big energy storage systems will have to go online to deal with intermittency and ensure grid stability. Alan Aoko, Tech One.
The government is targeting to secure 1 million jobs abroad for Kenyans. The Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Secretary Florence Bor says her ministry has signed 15 bilateral labour agreements for qualified unemployed Kenyans.
The unemployment rate was 4.9% as at December last year. To address this, Kenya is creating employment opportunities locally as well as abroad.
We are in the know that we have 5,000 youths that are out there without jobs, and therefore we'll be going out to look for more job orders in various countries for our youths to apply and for our youths to go out of the country and work. Currently the target is to get 1 million jobs. So pray for us as we work hard to get those orders for our youths to get those jobs.
So far, the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection has signed 15 bilateral labour agreements with several countries such as Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman and Kuwait for qualified unemployed Kenyans.
We are ready with the agreements. We just want to implement them, and this should be done within the next 6 months. We shall be having pilot programs where we'll be having various youths being taken to those countries to do jobs. Currently, we are looking for nurses. Nurses are required in Saudi Arabia. We gave out an advert. We have received the applications, and we should be vetting them to be able to get the required teams to go to those countries.
She challenged the youth to upskill so as to tap opportunities when they arise.
My appeal also to the youth is that they should look for skills. There are even short courses that you can do within 6 months. Those courses, if they can equip themselves with those courses, they will make them more marketable out there. Then for the various youths that have got skills and don't have jobs, I would encourage them to apply. We have been given directions, and that is the work that we are doing as a ministry to identify more job orders.
They were speaking during the launch of the National Labour Board at a Mombasa hotel. From Mombasa County, I am Anburu.
Manufacturers in Nigeria's textile industry are under strain as the cost of energy has almost doubled over the last 1 month as a result of the Naira devaluation. Some manufacturers say their expenses on gas, a vital source of power for their operations, rose 90% month on month. Here are the details of this and other stories making headlines in Africa.
Nigeria's inability to supply and distribute sufficient electricity has left businesses at the mercy of generators that consume diesel and petrol. Manufacturers spend 40% of their total production cost on generating energy. In June 2023, the Central Bank of Nigeria collapsed all segments of the foreign exchange market into the investors and exporters window. Central Bank of Nigeria says in order to minimize the impact of the volatility of the floating exchange rate on monthly invoices, it was reviewing an approach where the Naira equivalent of the gas price would be calculated using the simple average of the daily exchange rate for the applicable month of invoice. Meanwhile, the Food and Agriculture Organization says 20.3 million Sudanese people, representing over 42% of the national total population, are experiencing high levels of acute food insecurity. According to the latest integrated food security phase projections, 14 million people across Sudan are facing a food crisis and 6.3 million in a more critical food emergency. The report attributes this alarming situation to the ongoing armed conflict in Sudan, coupled with the subsequent economic downturn and mass displacement. Particularly affected regions include the capital city Khartoum, as well as the western Darfur region and the southern state of South Kordofan. The report further emphasizes that the armed conflict has inflicted severe damage on essential infrastructure, including healthcare facilities, schools, power grids, communication networks, and water treatment systems. And finally, Tunisia has announced that its grain harvest has plunged by 60% to 250,000 tons this year due to an unprecedented drought. The decline in grain production is likely to deepen Tunisia's financial difficulties as it tries to clinch an international rescue package. Thousands of farmers in the North African state are facing bankruptcy amid concerns of food security. Rain-fed farming constitutes most of Tunisia's cropland. Tunisia has been facing a shortage of essential commodities, and bakeries fear closure as wheat shortage drags on.
One of the largest urban solar projects has been inaugurated in Mexico City, where the rooftops of capital's wholesale market are now generating power for the city. The solar system has been installed on Mexico City's central of wholesale market, covering 327 hectares. Here are some of the details of this and other stories making headlines across the globe.
Rooftops on wholesale market in Mexico City are now outfitted with thousands of solar panels, which are supplying more than a third of this market's total energy consumption and will do so all year round. Government officials say the mega project marked the start of a solar power revolution in the country. Market visitors were impressed with the green initiative to turn the market rooftops into one of the world's biggest urban solar farms. Officials say part of the government's plan behind this mega project is to convince the Mexican society of the benefits of solar power. Elsewhere, the average retail gasoline price in Japan has climbed to its highest level in 15 years as the government subsidy to curb price hikes has been gradually scaling down. The average price of regular gasoline stood at 176.7 yen per litre as of Monday, advancing 1.9 yen from July 24th and hitting its highest level since August 2008. The price is expected to increase and affect households if the government holds this subsidy program designed to curb the impact of a surge in gasoline and other fuel prices at the end of September as planned. Gasoline prices are projected to continue rising. Finally, climate change and alarmingly frequent extreme weather events are posing threats to Italy's historic viticulture and winemaking industries. Last month, which was probably the hottest month on record according to the World Meteorological Organization, Italy experienced heat waves, wildfires, torrential rain, tornadoes and hail. The extreme weather has sparked concerns for local grape planting and wine-producing industry practitioners. Experts say that although grapes are resilient and able to adapt to various climatic conditions, they can still suffer from high temperature and lack of water. When temperatures exceed 35 degrees Celsius, the nutritional activity in the fruit is blocked, and in extreme cases, the plants may suffer permanent damage.
Cheza Loto Moto. Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial star 570 hash. Wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial star 570 hash. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stakes zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara kadhaa na kumbuka, cheza responsibly. 18 years and above.
Cheza Loto Moto. Are you a musician, music producer, vocalist, instrumentalist, or artist? Starting from the 26th of July to 2nd of August 2023, the National Youth Council is looking for that one unique identity youth song. The language of the song should be strictly either English or Swahili. Qualified contestants will be judged by industry experts, supported by Permanent Presidential Music Commission, PPMC, and shared online under our official hashtag. Fursa Youth Challenge.
Tulimwona vizuri na hata nilimwona kwa nikahakikisha nimemwona kwa sababu akiongea kuna jino haikuwa ni yeye, ni huyo hapa. Alisema anaitwa Dr. Mamboa.
What? Msichana sema ukweli ndio uachiliwe.
Hata hizi ziko huko kando zimengoka ndio hizo.
What you mean? Ushaikuwa nini kulipishana pesa hapo hivyo kwa kadi?
Aje sasa kwa nini makanga?
Na uwezi kuwa makanga, si ndio? Very good. So ni kielelekani umeleta hapa kwa hii kodi.
Ati kelele. Chunga maneno yako.
Sasa unajua hii mambo yote hawa watu wananiwekelea mheshimiwa. Manake sijawahi fanya kitu kama hii mheshimiwa. How shall you close me? How shall you?
Close, are you a door to be closed or a boot?
By the way. Lakini mheshimiwa ungeniangalia tu hapo.
Hebu toka tukamshike.
Welcome back. Now, Kenya is banking on luxury and adventure travel that is gaining popularity to position the country as an ideal tourist destination. The Kenya Tourism Board has rolled out a program to work with hospitality industry players such as hotels and airlines to offer incentives that would make destination Kenya attractive and affordable. Regina Manyara engages Kenya Tourism Board Acting Managing Director John Chirchir on emerging trends in the lucrative tourism sector.
Sandy, pristine beaches and majestic wildlife, part of Kenya's tourism portfolio. But we are yet to reach the COVID-19 pre-numbers. Tonight on KBC Channel 1, we look at the tourism sector and the steps that have been made to make it more profitable and exciting for both domestic and international tourists. Taking us through this conversation is none other than Acting CEO Kenya Tourism Board, John Chirchir. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your time. So July marks the beginning of the tourism high season. We'd want to know how the sector compares this year, 2023 to 2022.
First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. The tourism sector has seen the beginning of what we normally call the high season, and it's really, compared to the last several years, it's been one of the best. We've seen the signals indicating this in terms of flights and capacity that are now coming into Kenya, with an airline coming into Kenya also from India, Indigo Air. So that showcases that we really up. In terms of recovery from 2019, we are just 10% below that mark, and we've seen an accelerated growth, really helping the sector pick up quickly and grow. Our tourism professionals have been able to bring up experiences, not just looking at the high season, which is the migration, but also other areas where now we want to see more increased visitation and giving the customer or the current traveler the experiences that they need. So comparatively, yes, this season is really performing well, and we have seen a lot of busy airports, queues coming into the country, increased frequency of airlines, airlines asking for more permission to have entry into Kenya. So those are good signals. On the ground, we've seen a lot of tour operators also looking for additional vehicles to take clients into Mara and places beyond the Mara. These are good indicators, and we believe that by end of the year we will have fully recovered and grown beyond the 2019 arrival figures that were 2 million.
Well, that is quite positive. What do you think are the key drivers of this uptick within the sector?
Kenya is known for the, as you introduced, wildlife, beach, culture, heritage, and that has been the strength for which we are known. They are people, they are travelers who know Kenya and the promise that magical Kenya has to offer in terms of really speaking to their needs. So that preference works for us, and it's an expectation. There's pent-up demand, which quite a number of travelers are looking into, going into places of discovery, places that really are fulfilling to them, because after COVID, we realized that we really need to live our life fully. And although it does cost money, people are now willing to ignore the cost a bit and live their dream. So that is a consideration. Number two is the availability of our packages in the distribution channels in the markets, working with travel agencies and tour operators who have packaged Kenya and Africa as a whole. Therefore, our brand being strong and the promise of this season being what it is, we've seen such increased uptake. Our private sector have also been marketing directly, whether it's hotel, tour operator, giving offers in the market, and that connection with the support system back in the source markets where the tourists are coming from has really helped us to grow. So I'll be able to say that the logistical aspects that put together the realization of an experience in Kenya for a tourist is what has really facilitated. And we want to say thank you to the private sector here in Kenya, together with the partners abroad. We've seen demand for air access into Kenya, and I think His Excellency the President didn't pronounce himself in terms of inviting more airlines, especially into the Kenyan coast, because there are opportunities there and we need to see vibrancy in different destinations. So besides the private sector, we've also seen county governments coming up strongly, looking at what they have to offer as counties, and private sector who are with the resident within the counties really bringing out those offers. So as Kenya Tourism Board, we are supportive of that. The mapping of what opportunities lies in terms of products and tourism experiences beyond the known, so that we have wildlife, nature, we have the beach, but other things that we need now to develop into sound tourism portfolios that Kenya is known for. We've seen adventure. Kenya has been mentioned as a top destination in Africa and globally recognized for quite a number of things that are there, whether it's hiking, mountain climbing, quite a number of things, bungee jumping, those are available. There's also the rise of the new traveler, the independent traveler, who is digitally savvy. And the beauty is Kenyans really are good online, and we have a lot of information that is available. So really riding on that, we have both domestic and international visitors do come into Kenya knowing what exactly they want, how they want it packaged, so to the extent that they want to guide their own itinerary and experiences that they wish.
So John, from where you speak is that Kenya now is gravitating away from the sandy beaches and the landscape as well as wildlife to focus on other aspects, including culture and wellness. How is it going as we speak? Because we have seen, luxury travel is gaining traction. Is this something that you as a marketing agency is keen on tapping on?
Yes, but with correction. Yes, we have what we call bread and butter products that we've sold over the years, and Kenya is known for which Magical Kenya is strongly known for and competitive in that aspect. For a premium traveler, Kenya is an ideal destination of choice. But if you look at the capacity that which can take, for the case of Masai Mara, now that we are what we're calling high season, although Masai Mara is a year-round destination, there's only so much, because we'll end up spoiling the nature and the experiences among tourists. Tourists will have a certain expectation. They don't want to see beyond a certain number of cars or too much crowding. If you have a lion experience that maybe has just had a kill and it wants to eat it, the lion must eat, but also the tourist needs to see. So there's a certain number of proportionality. So we are not saying that we are stopping a beach and wildlife. We are saying we want to add to those pillars of nature and wildlife, which is bringing a lot of foreign exchange and high premium tourists to other areas. For example, we can have much more arrivals into our beach and city destinations. And there's so many things that a city experience can offer, into nightlife, cultural experiences, fashion, cuisine, among many others. So we believe that the future has a lot of promise for Kenya, both in value of tourists that each tourist can bring in terms of tourism dollars and purchasing power, and also speaking to the affordability and the numbers that we wish to grow to, so that there is protection of nature and conservation as well, and also there is a balancing act of where do we take the extra. So there are less visitors back. There are places where, if in respect of the amount of tourists going there, the impact on nature might not be that high. Yes, so it's just a matter of clarification. But yes, Kenya is able to really grow, and we're looking for a future that is promising.
The MICE sector has been pushing a lot of travel, especially domestically. What does it portend this year for the sector?
There are initiatives now to make MICE mainstream, not only for domestic market, but even for regional market. We've seen Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and even our neighbors opting to come to Kenya for meetings, and we can be able to offer now the leisure experience after. So MICE continues to be big, especially for city, Mombasa and Nairobi, but we've seen in county headquarters that uptake coming up. And it's really supported the growth of facilities in terms of restaurants, hotel sector, star-rated and non-star rated, and even Airbnb. So the reports that we are receiving, our facilities are doing quite well. Bars into nightlife are also doing very well, but we need more injection in terms of capital and those experiences being brought so that we really truly tap into them and have increased employment as a consequences of all this on various sectors, whether it is transport, waiters, and the multiplier effect, whether it's food and beverage, people supporting them in terms of furniture and etc.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, as a marketing agency, in light of competition, we have heard that South Africa is actually giving us a run for our money. What strategies are you employing to actually push further the magical Kenya experience, or rather what we term as brand Kenya experience?
So the magical Kenya experience, to compare to that of South Africa, quite unique and distinct to each other. There are strengths that we have, there are also strengths that South Africa has, but if you look at what Kenya has to offer, it's really broad, it's authentic and diverse, and also sustainable. So that is what we are known for. But not just looking at competition in terms of arrivals on the type of tourist that is visiting. So the numbers, yes, for South Africa, we know the neighborhood has really been supporting them. For us, we are looking into Africa. We are diversifying our markets to include Africa, where really huge numbers we are expecting to be able to convert, working with our partners and trade.
That is quite positive. And before I let you go, we've had the implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Yes. What impact will it have to intra-African tourism, travel in between the African, or rather across the African continent?
The inter-Africa travel is really a big component for us. Diversification of markets has really uplifted Africa to become one of the key source markets and opportunity source market for us, because people are now able to travel to regional spaces, regional destinations. So the challenge for us is now to bring up to that awareness where we are going to convert not only Nigerians, South Africans, and our neighbors here to come to Kenya, but even to develop now specific product experiences for them. As you know, Uganda and Tanzania has been among our top rivals, but if you go online, you'll see Nigerians love visiting Kenya. You'll see the regional markets also love visiting Kenya. So we have a product that is sound for them. For example, honeymoon at the coast resonates with Ugandans.
There's a slogan, that has been adopted within the ministry, making culture cool again. Yes. What role is KTB playing in this?
Maasai, Samburu, Swahili, for example, are really iconic, and every visitor to Kenya would like to engage with them. But we are saying, yes, do engage with those ones, but making it really broadly. So our interpretation of culture is, yes, there is that which is organic, which we were born into, but there is also the modern culture, be it fashion, way of lifestyle. I spoke about matatu. Matatu can be a culture. Cuisine, the way infusion is coming up, nightlife experiences. So what is it to have a Nairobi culture? Or if you go to Mombasa, what is the culture and expectation of Mombasa? So those are the things that we want to bring out. So there is let me call it the traditional way of life that we live, whether Maasai, Samburu, Luo, Kalenjin, whatever. So that is brought out clearly, and it's become immersive in the way that we provide information and really direct people to where they get these immersive experiences that they're able to live in, whether it's 1 day or 2 days. But then there's this other aspect of us being Kenyan. What is that Kenyan culture? What is that cool thing about culture? So there is a modern and there is a tradition. So that's what we are bringing in out in terms of information, that the two. You've seen Maasai beads being fashionable. but it's been changing to a really nice bracelet with the Kenyan flag. That's cool culture. We've seen Swahili henna being adopted during weddings, but you see somebody going to the course and they don't feel like wearing jewelry and they want to have a certain ambience, let me call it, to themselves, if it's just a flower on the hands of a lady, and that becomes really cool culture. So culture is cool again, and that's what we want to bring out. But more importantly, that Kenyans be proud of their culture, even as foreigners come and embrace it, that we are really proud of it ourselves, but finally to preserve and conserve our culture for the future.
Now, the traveler is becoming tech savvy, younger, and looking for specific experiences. As a marketing agency, how are you tapping in onto the online platform to market Kenya?
Yes, digital has really exploded and it is huge. There are many apps and platforms that have been developed to aid independent traveler. So before somebody comes to Kenya or visiting a destination, they'll do a lot of search. They'll watch a lot of videos, whether from friends or YouTube. Those are the spaces we want to be in. So the key ingredient there that will feed onto this is really content creation that speak to the needs of those travelers, to be able to be visible to them and show them this is a promise. Number two is really working with influencers, celebrities, and people who have experienced that, come to the destination and had their own experiences that they want to share. So they become advocates for the destination, but now from a digital perspective, where their influence is really critical, and what they say goes and is stronger than the brand speaking on its own behalf. So content creation will really be key, working with influencers and platforms that have huge reach and influence, and really going to the mind of this new traveler, so that we are able to feed them and give them and provide them with the opportunity. So there are those who are independent travelers who will curate everything for themselves and pay everything for themselves, and they may have a program that they may redesign as they go and even be influenced as they go. So those are the kind of things. Then there are those who are modern, digitally savvy, where they'll be able to say, this is the experience I want, but they want a travel agent or a tour operator to be part of it, so that the hassle is given out to somebody else. But they know what to expect, they know what they want, and they know what quality, and they're ready to pay for it. So both in line is what we are working with them, but feeding them with content, utilizing platform like Instagram, TikTok, to reach them, and for them really speaking to themselves, because they discover more quicker, faster than even some of us, and that content will be out. So we'll have destinations that are trending, experiences that are trending. We have celebrities that will come and just with one tweet or with one video, they move massive awareness to a certain experience or information or a brand. So those have become critical, and that's the space we want to play in. But now there are quite a number of players that we must work with, right from the consumer themselves to whoever is facilitating, whether it's the airline, support system on arrival, and how they are received and how they go by. For Kenya, we've not mapped most of our roads, so we will need more investments coming to mapping of the roads, providing information, although there are technology platforms that facilitate them to travel. But with our partners, I believe we are very strong. They have a very strong backup system where now they'll be able to deliver for them. And for every person who has been to Kenya, really, whether it's independent traveler or not, if you go digital, you'll find that high ratings is based on people experiences, because our Kenyans really are unique in that way. They come for quite a number of reasons, whether it's wildlife, nature, heritage, but the key thing that they take back home is the people-to-people experience and great memories at that.
Now, you've talked about, undiscovered areas, and I'm using undiscovered with a tinge of salt because we're already discovered as a country. Now, we have circuits that have not gained so much traction, like the Western Circuit and such. What are you doing? What strategies are you employing to ensure that these places, like Western Kenya and towards the North Rift, also get the same kind of viewership and traction going forward, especially focusing on the domestic traveler?
For those destinations and experience that needs to be discovered, the key thing is first to bring them to light. So awareness is really important. Creating content, showing content to the right audiences in the right format, having publicity around it, even having events taken there. Number two is access, ensuring that this facilitation on how a tourist can actually get there, have the experience and come back and tell a great story. So whether it's access by road or facilities that are enabling for them, that becomes really, really critical. So awareness and access are really key in my opinion. Finally, not really finally, but affordability as well. For domestic tourists, because we'll be taking them away mostly from large cities to go into hinterland, if I get you right. So affordability will be key. Really speaking to somebody who is making sure the experience is affordable, that they are aware of the cost and everything that pertains to that. So if you have to go for 2 days, then you know this is how much it's going to cost. But number one is awareness and availing information around it, whether it's packaged for a tour operator or a travel agents to facilitate it, or an independent traveler who's just going to drive into it, whether by themselves or a group of friends. Yes. So those ones become critical in terms of bringing them to light and making them not only undiscovered but really used and getting more frequent tourists.
Now, what partnerships is KTB looking at in its, you have a mandate of marketing around Kenya. What partnerships are you looking at?
In our implementation of our work plans and our strategic plan that we are developing now, partnership is really a critical value that we do have, and it's really, we can't do without partnership because our resources are not really endless, and we need to bring partners who are either competent in terms of access to specific audiences that we want to, or we have a certain win-win when we collaborate. So partnership becomes critical, whether it's with the media, the private sector, county governments in themselves. Partnership becomes critical. So we will be doing a lot of partnership programs on areas that are priority, not only in diversification of product and experiences, but also in development of content, storytelling, with media, with celebrities, the whole range of it, so that all these experiences are brought to light to the most important person, who is a traveler, to prefer first Kenya, and then now to have the choice of where to go in Kenya, and based on their interests, which activities or experiences they wish to have.
And since we cannot do without partnerships, what role is the marketing agency playing, towards climate adaptation, given that the tourism sector is quite reactive to what is happening within the climate?
Climate adaptation, climate change, and really having tourism being alive to climate is really practical here in Kenya. We saw what happened in the dry spell that we had, where wildlife was really affected badly to a point of by humans. Kenya Wildlife Service, which we give kudos together with the minister. We must adapt to climate change. We must pick in our tourism. So we are known as Kenya as a sustainable destination for wildlife, but not only protecting wildlife in a way of really conserving them, but now even going further and living to the challenges of climate change. So climate, dry weather, and having issues of maybe too much rainfall leading to floodings are things that we are alive to today. And recently, I think it was about last week, where it was the hottest day ever on earth, it was reported. So it is something that is current. So the tourists coming to Kenya, we are speaking to them to be aware of issues around climate, impact on climate, impact on the environment, the need to move away from plastic, for example, speaks to climate, the need for conservation of wildlife diverse species, which might be challenged if we go a certain direction and there's climate change. So that conscious traveler is what we are speaking to, and those are the people who we can tap to come to Kenya, because they believe and they know that by coming to Kenya they are contributing, whether it's to tree planting, whether it's to awareness, or supporting a destination that is really alive to climate change. And His Excellency the President has been on the forefront of this, on what it means that we may have actually no nation, no earth in the near future if we do not adapt.
Now, in parting, We have seen how the sector has behaved, at least for the first 6 months of 2023. Do you think that we're going to meet this year's target when it comes to tourist arrivals?
As a destination, we are going to achieve and surpass our number. Not only for this year, but we are looking for really aggressive growth into the future as investments into the required facilities are put in place. So we are happy with the invitation of opening up of those airlines to fly into Mombasa, for which we appreciate. I think the tourism industry in Mombasa is going to be even more vibrant. So those are the steps for which we are going to, not only from the logistic perspective, but also from the product packaging perspective and our marketing that will now be really transformational.
Indeed. Well, there you've had it. We have been speaking to the acting CEO, Kenya Tourism Board, there, John Chirchir, who is exuding a lot of confidence of the sector returning to profitability after that particular glitch that was led by the COVID-19 pandemic. I've been your host, Regina Manyara. You're watching KBC Channel 1.
It's now time for sports. Let's change gears a little bit. And in the world of sports, one of the stories that I'm looking forward to tonight is on the basketball matches and boxing, which is actually my favorite. I need to ask you, tell me a little bit on the other side of the studio, what story do you have for us when it comes to boxing? And is Africa likely to get a gold medal this year?
Oh, yes, indeed, Cynthia, and thank you very much. We are looking at how Kenyan boxers are faring on at the ongoing Africa Boxing Championship, which is happening in Cameroon. That's in Yaoundé, and a couple of Kenyan boxers have gotten through to the finals, rather, which means that they are in the money bracket.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm looking forward to that story, so I'll let you take it away, Bernard.
Yes, indeed, and we begin with the boxing story where the Kenyan pugilist Shafi Bakari was forced to settle for bronze in the ongoing Africa Boxing Championship in Yaoundé, Cameroon, after being declared medically unfit to feature in the bantamweight semi-final. To 2017 African champion Habib Omaima of Morocco in the welterweight quarterfinals. While Samuel Njau lost to Omole Dolapo of Nigeria, the Africa Championship will act as a build-up to Africa Olympic qualifiers, which will take place in Dakar, Senegal in September. And to the Safaricom Chapa Dimba football tournament, which is set to be held in the first county finals in Vihiga County this weekend. Finalists Ebwali Boys and Bunyore Assassins will lock horns in the boys category, while Madira Girls will face Maroon Queens on Saturday at Mumboha Stadium in Luanda.
Powerhouse Ebwali Boys will take on Bunyore Assassins in the boys category, while Madira Girls will be up against Maroon Queens on Saturday at Mumboha Stadium in Luanda. After Vihiga, the finals will head to Busia, Kakamega and Bungoma County on the 12th and 13th of this month. The Western Region tournament kicked off in June at ward level, featuring 441 teams. The football tournament targets young people aged between 16 and 20 years old. The group stages will be played at the grassroots levels, with successful teams qualifying for the regional finals across the 8 regions. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendo.
And the World Athletics has confirmed that the Kenya men's 4x100 meters and the 4x400 meters mixed relay teams will take part in the 2023 World Athletics Championships set for this month in Budapest, Hungary. The two Kenyan teams have qualified for the biennial event by virtue of their 16th place ranking on the World Athletics rankings.
The mixed relay team comprising Commonwealth Games 800 meters champion Mary Mora, Wycliffe Kimanyang, Boniface Maresa and Naomi Korir boast of 3 minutes 14.61 seconds, a time set during the National Athletics Championships in June. The quadrant was recently disqualified from their race in Germany after breaching a technical rule that prohibits runners from beginning a race outside the takeover zones. The 4x400 meters team posted a time of 3 minutes, 2.2 seconds, courtesy of Kenya Police winning time at the National Championships in June. The team is led by African and Commonwealth champion Ferdinando Manyala, Boniface Moresa, Dan Kiviasi and Hesbon Ochieng. The team is currently camping at Kasarani Stadium ahead of the World Championships. For Prime Edition, I'm Sila Onyango.
The 9th leg of the KCB East Africa Golf Tour will be held at the Par 73 Nakuru Golf Course this weekend. The weekend's tournament has attracted over 200 golfers who will converge at the Nakuru-based facility, where 2 teams are expected to qualify for the tour's grand finale set for November at the Current Country Club. Now, so far, 8 teams have booked a slot in the grand finale, with the latest entries coming from the 8th leg of the series that was held at the Nyeri Golf Club last month. KCB Group CEO Paul Russell said they target to bring on board budding junior and lady golfers who have developed an interest in the sport. The tour has seen over 1,000 participants taking part across various counties. And to the Women's World Cup, where Morocco are through to the round of 16 of the Women's World Cup after a 1-0 win over Colombia. Morocco finished second in Group H behind Colombia, who finished at the top on goal difference. Meanwhile, 2-time world champions Germany failed to qualify for the knockout stage for the first time in history after a 1-1 draw with South Korea.
Anissa Lamari scored the only goal as Morocco sealed a 1-0 victory over Colombia and secured a spot in the Women's World Cup round of 16, becoming the 3rd African nations to advance past the group stage.
That wasn't far away either.
The North Africans join South Africa and Nigeria in the knockout rounds and will take on France on Tuesday in Sydney. In another match, pre-tournament favourites and 2-time world champions Germany were knocked out of the competition in the group stage after a 1-1 draw with South Korea. Germany finished 3rd in Group H with 4 points below Colombia and Morocco, who took the first 2 positions respectively.
Oh, yes!
And of course, the advancing of Morocco to the round of 16 brings to 3 the number of teams from Africa that have advanced in the tournament after Nigeria and South Africa did it earlier in the week. To MLS now, where Inter Miami are through to the round of 16 of the MLS Leagues Cup after a 3-1 win over Orlando City. Lionel Messi scored a brace for Inter Miami, giving him a 5-goal tally in 3 matches for the Herons.
To Busquets.
Lionel Messi opened the scoring for Inter Miami in the 7th minute after converting Robert Taylor's pass. Cesar Araujo equalized for Orlando City in the 17th minute. Joseph Martinez's penalty kick in the 50th minute put Miami on top once again before Messi sealed the win in the 72nd minute with a right-footed volley from Joseph Martinez's pass.
The penalty to his new teammate Joseph Martinez, and Inter Miami has retaken the lead.
The final of the MLS Leagues Cup is scheduled for August 19th.
The ability to lift the ball to the back post, and Joseph
Well, we are now coming to an end, but I have to ask you about the Women's World Cup. and Africa's story. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, and of course, Africa had 5 chances or 5 slots at the Women's World Cup, courtesy of FIFA's allocation. But of course, the other one was supposed to be contested by other teams for intercontinental contestation. But the African representatives lost out. So 4 teams automatically went to the New Zealand and Australia, where the championship is happening. And 3 of them are through to the round of 16. What this means for Africa is that now, after Nigeria, South Africa, and Morocco, which is the latest one to go through, it means that Africa will have a bigger allocation in the next edition of the championship. But also maybe it does make that the women football back in Africa, the popularity definitely has grown.
Yes, I've been seeing people talking about it on social media. So that's actually part of the reason why I was asking, and because I've been watching and so excited for Africa. Well, from me and the rest of the team, we do want to wish you a very good night.
Thank you for watching, and good night.
Cheza Loto Moto. Sasa unaweza jishindia instantly na Loto Moto. Dial *570 hash. Wakati wowote, siku yoyote ya wiki na mahali popote. Dial *570 hash. Kisha chagua moja kati ya games za Loto Moto. Weka stakes zako 50 shillings, 300, 500, 2,000 shillings. The bigger your stake, the greater, or the bigger your prizes. Cheza mara